everybody. My name is Andrew Longsworth. I'm a CSIT student, and my professor, Narayanan, was my advisor for this capstone. I thought I'd just introduce myself and show you some of the most important people in my life. I'd like to really thank them at the beginning here because they've put up with a lot in the last year of this capstone process. My daughter and wife, my son, and some of the things I did over this last year besides capstone was I went flying with my brother. I had a long business trip in Europe, and well, that's my daughter and I having some fun at a Giants game. So it's been quite a process, and I was really happy to participate in it as much as I could. I work for Driscoll Strawberry Associates. That's my employer, and that's where my capstone project took place. As you can see in this photo from a couple weeks ago in the Camarillo area, occasionally things happen that we don't expect. Those cause problems. Well, as a network administrator at Driscoll Strawberry, my job is to solve problems. This photo actually is a really good illustration because one of those problems that we have is WAN circuits going down. It's our connections to remote sites having problems. In fact, we had a farmer in Mexico who decided to burn some brush and trash underneath our telephone lines. And of course, that brought those telephone lines right down. And what happens? Well, let me give you a little topology, a little network lesson here. You can see on the right side, we have a user laptop, and if you follow the green path, you follow it over to the server. So that's a great path to take when that path is available. But what happens when that path goes down? Well, at Driscoll's, we had a manual process to switch from our main circuit to a backup circuit. That was slow. That delayed the service cutover. And that is a problem when you have a business that is in perishable fruit that is very time sensitive. Any few minutes that fruit sits out in the sun is a few minutes that it starts to spoil. And if you have spoiled fruit, it doesn't take a genius to realize nobody's going to buy it and nobody's going to pay you for it. So we had this problem. How did we solve it? Well, the first step was being open-minded. And it helped that we got a little lucky. I read an article in Network World about a small startup company called Talari Networks. And they had a new technology that would help solve this problem. We said, well, let's check it out. But given that they were a startup company, we had to be very careful and deliberate about how we were going to roll out this new technology. We didn't want to cause additional problems to our network by trying to implement an untested and unproven technology. So we had to do a lot of testing, we had to do a lot of monitoring, and we had to closely watch our bandwidth and utilization reports to make sure that we weren't creating more of a problem than we were solving. The technology is called adaptive private networking. And what I'd like you to see on this graph, on this topology is, if you look at the user laptop, sure, it still has one connection, but now with the Talari appliance in place, you can utilize multiple paths back to your data center. Not only can you utilize them in a failover scenario, but you can utilize them all the time. So we go from having a single circuit with maybe 1.5 megabits of bandwidth, maybe you could watch Netflix on that, maybe not, to having multiple circuits, having 8 megabits of bandwidth at this remote site with a cable line, a DSL line, and a T1. And now, 4 or 5 people can watch Netflix. Well, maybe that's not what we really want our remote users to be doing. Hopefully they're receiving fruit in a timely fashion. And if any one of these paths go down, it takes less than 1 second for the Talari appliance to notice and send the appropriate traffic over a different path. So this saves us time, this saves us money, and in the IT department it saves us a lot of stress because we don't have to jump in every time a WAN circuit fails. It's great. It's been real helpful for us. Some of the technology used, obviously, your network is going to be built out of Cisco switches and routers. That's not going to change with Talari networks. We use Juniper firewalls for a lot of our backup circuits. And then, of course, we have the Talari Networks APN appliance, as you saw in the topology. So it's all about the technology, but, and these are my lessons here, the technology has to fit. You saw the before and after difference in the topology. You have to have network design, and that's the key, is getting your appliance in the right place to manage the traffic in the right way. I, of course, learned, if you haven't a team, work with your team. Use the resources available to you, and don't try and do everything yourself. Don't go to Mexico 3 times to deploy the devices. Don't go to Florida to deploy the device. Let someone who's already there go ahead and do it. The third point here, get air cover. I don't know if you've heard this phrase. It's particularly appropriate in IT, I think, where you need someone 2 or 3 levels above you who is the sponsor for your project, that wants that project to succeed and is willing to provide time, material, and financial resources when you're working on an expensive project. So management buy-in is huge. And then one development methodology we used was, let's do smaller sites first. Let's go ahead and test this out at one of our local sites. It's not quite as important as some of our larger remote sites, and make sure it works before we actually roll it out to all sites. So thank you very much. I'll be in room 164. We have brand new fresh berries and whipped cream, so nice snacks over there.